Yeah, I have a bit of bad news.
Once again, in the glow of the atom.
I don't know.
No, stop the intro, stop it.
No ranger who dies.
Stop, okay. So, yeah, so you might be wondering, what's with the title? Where are the intros? Where's all the dialogue? Yeah, I have a bit of bad news. I am not going to be continuing this series. It turns out the setup that I have for my squad, namely the fact that my soldiers are going so heavy into combat skills and only have one other skill each, means that they can really focus and be incredibly effective in combat. This, unfortunately, means the game is really easy, and 20 hours in, I've done, if anybody's played the game, I've done pretty much everything there is to do on the west side of the Arizona map before you head through the mountain pass, besides Darwin Village and the prison, and I had one soldier die once. And that was because of friendly fire, because of a goddamn robot that I hacked, who has no qualms about firing burst fire energy weapons through my squad to target the enemy. And sure, some of you might say, oh, you know, the game is going to get more difficult later on. You know, I don't doubt that. But as I said, 20 hours in, and it's still easy. That means you guys would have to sit through a minimum of 20 episodes, assuming they're an hour each, of which they wouldn't be. They'd be between half an hour to 45 minutes. And even then, my squad will quite likely have skills in their preferred weapons at a rank of between 8 and 9. Which means they're incredibly effective at killing pretty much anything. So instead of doing an entire series on this, I'm just going to explain what I did, how I did it, and just go from there. I know, guys, I'm a little bit upset about the fact that I've been hyping this series probably longer than any other series that I have done. Yeah, it's just not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. I don't really know what else to say. The way I was going to do it was any dialogue conversations that would come up and they were voiced, I'd simply have a YouTube link in the top left-hand corner that would say, like, skip conversation, and it jumped to the point in the video where the conversation's over. So those that want to listen to conversations can, those that don't want to, don't have to. And situations like this, I would just fast forward where I just loot places and, yeah, just fast forward any place that there isn't really combat. As I said, it's not going to go like that. I'm just going to explain how I have made Supreme Jerk, the highest difficulty, pretty much my bitch, risking arrogance and for lack of a better term. Okay, so we start at Ranger Citadel. That was Vargas over there telling us that a guy has died. We don't really care about that. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to show you how to max out your squad within the first hour or so of gameplay. For that, you need to head north, and there's a lot of radiation you need to get through, and you won't survive going through it without a radiation suit. And for that means you need to loot Ranger Citadel as much as you can. First thing first, do not talk to this guy. If you're using my setup, you won't have any speech skills, you won't have smart ass, kiss ass, or hard ass. Level 1 of any of those skills will net you a weapon which is pretty useless, but just for the sake of money, you need that weapon to sell it to buy a rad suit from this lady here. So I'm going to fast forward while I loot as much of this place as possible. Okay, so I've looted everything half...
You never should have put down the wrench and picked up the gun.
I know, Angie. I've looted everything on the southern half of this map. If you know what's good for you, you will not loot the grave of the guy that just had his funeral. Probably a bad idea. But what we need is Angela. She's not going to be sticking with us for particularly long, but she's a pretty decent soldier.
Sorry about the water.
This early on. Yeah, Angela, I don't care.
You kicked my...
Yes, please come with me. So, yeah, as I said, this isn't going to be a proper walkthrough, so I'm going to skip through all of the dialogue, and I need her and her hard-ass skill. Amongst other things, I also need her brute force skill, and her outdoorsman is going to be pretty handy when I'm going to try avoid combat out in the Wasteland as much as possible. So now we have hard-ass. We can make a comment about letting us into the HQ. Yes, I am interested in the gun that you're offering, and I absolutely swear that I will put that gun to good use. Thank you very much, random soldier. And speaking of good use, I'm going to sell it, because that is good use. Not going to sell it yet, though. I might as well loot the rest of the base. Fast forward. Okay, now we have looted everything in the camp. Time to sell as much as we can to get that rad suit. Yeah, I don't really care about anything you have to say. You're not even voiced. So this is the rad suit we need. It costs 200. We currently have 84, which isn't bad. So, of course, we're going to sell the cigarettes because that is a free 20. And also sell all the junk. We're going to sell the pistol ammo and the shotgun ammo, as well as that weird-ass shotgun that guy gave us that made us promise we'd put to good use. Well, it was put to good use. Thanks very much. And we're also going to sell the energy cells because we won't be using an energy weapon anytime soon. But we do have a sniper rifle. That came in pretty handy. A lot of people might say there's no point in selling weapons when you can break them down using the weaponsmith skill to get weapon fragments or weapon parts, because there are several items that you'll find throughout the game that back at HQ somebody will pay a lot for them. The weapons dealer will pay for weapon fragments and he will pay a lot for them, and indefinitely, as far as I'm aware, an unlimited amount. The doctor will pay for any kind of pain pills, although this early on I wouldn't recommend holding off using them. If you have to use them, by all means do. You'll find more of them later on in the game, and he only needs a limited supply. I think only 20 pain pills he needs before he says, you know, that's enough, I'll probably end up killing myself taking so many. And the last item that somebody back at base needs in large quantities is shit. Literally, it's crap. It's feces. We won't be running into any of that. Probably won't be running into any of that unless some of the enemies end up crapping themselves. I'm not really sure. Let me set up my items quickly. So Van Dorn has a better sniper rifle. And now time for that rad suit. And now, as you can see, radiation resistance of 2. That means we can head north pretty safely. One last thing. Usually I would buy, if I was playing for the sake of continuing the campaign, I would buy a trinket that she has called Akita Figurine. This gives +1 Animal Whisperer, which will allow us to befriend this goat here. It's not particularly worth it, but for that little money, the goat gives us, as far as I remember, +1 coordination, which isn't bad. It's kind of handy, but I'm not going to be doing that. As I said, I'm not going to be continuing the campaign. This is just going to be showing you how to have the best start you possibly can and just kind of bend the game over and have your way with it on Supreme Jerk. As far as I'm aware, I believe in vanilla Wasteland 2, you could, as long as you left this can on the floor here, you could keep befriending this goat, and every time it died, as long as the can was here, the goat would respawn. That is not the case in Director's Cut. So, yeah, if you intend to befriend the goat, you might as well pick up that junk because that goat won't be respawning. So now we have our rad suit. We need to head north. There are 2 ways you can go about doing this. Yep, copy, over, done. There are 2 ways you can go about doing this. Head straight north, and if you line it up right, you'll only take 1 tick of level 3 radiation damage, which is pretty bad, to be honest. Remember, you have to come back down here, so you may not want to risk taking that much damage across your entire squad. The other alternative is going the long way around, which, although I didn't do in my initial playthrough, my trial run, I will do that now, because that's probably the smart thing to do. You've got a character with level 3 outdoorsman, so she should be pretty good at avoiding combat. Now, most people will say, oh, you want to get as much experience as you can in the early game, out in the random encounters. That might be true, but remember, we have our entire squad set up with weapons that use very expensive ammo. So honestly, I don't really want to get into fights unless I need to. So, combat, 50% chance to run. That isn't that great. One thing I've noticed about combat is that if you choose to attack them, you tend to be placed closer to the exit than if you choose to run and get ambushed. At least in my opinion. I can't guarantee this is always the case, but I have found if I don't want to risk rolling the dice and I choose to attack, quite often I can just sneak by the enemy and get out without them noticing. So let's attack. And it may actually be the case here. It looks like we can sneak past. We'll get without getting the attention of these animals. And we're out. Now, we found some water here. That's kind of important. You need that to survive. Yeah, if you run out of water, you'll just take damage over and over again every tick that you move. Oh my god, alright. Okay, back again. This time, there are even less enemies nearby. If it's a 75% chance to avoid the combat entirely, then I will try to skip the combat. But if you head north, then the games of random events will get more difficult. And as you can see, all the radiation around here is only level 1. Ow, except for that one right on that corner that I didn't notice. That's something you might want to avoid in your playthrough. Don't hug this wall, because there's a level 3 radiation right against that I didn't notice, and it cost me a fair bit of health. Completely unnecessarily as well.
Hi everybody, this is Corex from the Corex Arcade.
More combat. Again, as you can see, because I initiated the combat, because I attacked, they didn't get the ambush on me, and it put me quite close to the exit. Now, let's see if we can actually make our way to Rail Nomads. They should be pretty much here, and more combat. And here we are. Alright, game, I get it. I get it. Again, we engaged the combat, we activated it, we attacked, so the exit is pretty close by. Every time the roll fails and they ambush us, the squad tends to spawn quite far away, so, I mean, it does look like my theory works, that if you attack, you are put in a better position. Okay, so welcome to Rail Nomads. You might also be wondering why I didn't sell this sniper rifle. Mainly because I need it. So I'm going to be getting 2 more squad mates here, getting me to the total maximum of 7. That's the maximum you can have in the entire game. If somebody dies, well, if you're not playing Iron Man mode, then you can just load back.
Please, strangers. My friend Ralphie's in the lake.
Yeah, I know. We'll go save him.
Please hurry. The lake is this way.
Oh, there's loot there, damn it. Yeah, so Jesse here is going to lead you to the first squad mate that you're going to be getting. If you're playing in Iron Man mode, this is quite likely the first place that you might screw up. We need to use Angie's brute force skill. And it has to be on the right hand side totem. If you use the left hand side one, it will kill him when it lands. And it has a 5% chance to critically fail. If she critically fails, she'll injure herself. Not...
Jesse, help!
Yeah, I know, it won't actually do damage to her, but it will mean she won't be able to use that skill for about 5 minutes without a surgeon, and we don't have a surgeon, which means Jesse, or Ralphie should I say, will die.
She couldn't save me, so she ran.
Yeah, she was nearby.
I gotta tell my mom I'm okay, but I better go find Jesse after. When Kekaba...
Let's just get rid of all these dialogue options. While we're here, we'll loot. So yeah, if you roll that 5% chance to critically fail, Angela will get injured. She won't actually lose life, it's more like a debuff, and it will mean that she won't be able to use her brute force skill for the duration of that debuff. The only way you can remove it is if you have the surgeon skill, but none of us have the surgeon skill, so Ralphie will quite likely die. Hi, how you doing? I'm not heading left. This guy has been injured. As far as I'm aware, he will stay here for as long as you want, as long as you don't talk to him or try to heal him. So because none of my squad has the surgeon skill, and even when they do, level 1 is nowhere near enough to heal him, I'm actually going to leave him until, you know, a good 10 hours into the game. So let's avoid that. And speaking of avoiding, part of the mission in Rail Nomads is to resolve the conflict between 2 of the Native American tribes. One of them has set a bomb on this bike, Jesse's bike here, and it's very important that you disarm the bomb to be able to progress the story. It has a 10% chance to fail. If it fails, Zhang here will be probably screwed, but if you're not playing in Iron Man mode, you can load back. If you are, it's the beginning of the game. It doesn't make that big a difference. Please don't screw up. Brilliant.
I'm in a playground, strangers. I could have
Beyond
done that
criminal.
at any time.
Okay, so we just saved Jesse's life by the opposing Native American tribe. Ironically, she is part of that opposing tribe. Even more so is the fact that the boss of that tribe is her dad. And he was the one that planted the bomb. Or at least he was the one that made the bomb. So this will help in us resolving the conflict.
Oh
that we saved her
You
life
saved Ralphie.
from
You're
her own
the
dad.
best.
There's another bomb round here. I wouldn't recommend defusing it. It is actually trickier to do than this bomb. This bomb is only a 10% chance to fail. That bomb, I think's like a 30% chance to fail and a 30% chance to succeed. So the odds aren't great.
But no one listens to...
So the old hobo, yes, we will be picking up the old hobo in a minute. Yeah, so one of the people that we're picking up is Scotchmo over here. Very handy with a shotgun. As I said, I won't be using shotguns, but, you know, he's good with one, so I guess I'll be taking advantage of that fact. If anybody gets into range, he can just blow them away with a shotgun. But I'm not really going to be increasing his skill. Shotguns kind of fall off because they don't have high armor penetration. And not to mention, we need a combined charisma of 12. And if you'd like to do the maths with me, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. As you can tell, that is quite low. And nowhere enough to get Scotchmo, the hobo. He is far too classy to be running around with this band of XCOM heroes. I don't know what's wrong with him. But, luckily, we just saved Ralphie's life.
Oh, Rangers! I heard I would give you...
Let's talk to his mum. You want to give us your son?
I know it's... What do you say?
We'll take him.
Now come...
Gee, that's great. This place is nice and all, but I'd rather be out having adventures with you.
And now we've leveled up and got another squad mate. Now, not gonna lie, Ralphie is a bit rubbish. There are much better soldiers later in the game that you can pick up, and it's more a question of the stats that they have being spread out in a fashion that is more suitable to combat. Ralphie is not suited for combat. He has toast repair, probably the most useless skill in the game. A lot of people might argue against that because it helps you work your way through side quests, which is great and all, it gets you extra XP, but it doesn't really help you besides that. It unlocks side quests, that's it. Animal Whisperer is better. You can use it on random animals that are neutral, and then they will kind of join as that soldier's follower, giving the soldier a +1 in a particular stat, like coordination or awareness, something like that. And then we have Brawling. I'm not using melee under any conditions. I mean, maybe Angela, she's got decent blunt weapon skills. If somebody gets close by, then maybe I'll use her just for the sake of saving ammo. Ralphie here is crap. The only reason I get him is because it's so early on in the game, you can sculpt him the way you want him to be. And not to mention, he has a very low chance to go rogue. Angela's got a 5% chance. He has a 3% chance. So one more upgrade from Van Dorn in his leadership skill will completely negate Ralphie's chance to go rogue. In fact, it'll also negate Angela's chance to go rogue, but we don't care about her. She is not going to be sticking around. Speaking of which, I need all your stuff because I'm going to be getting rid of you soon enough. So now we've got Ralphie and his 4 charisma. That puts us at a grand total of 12. Thank you. Which puts us just in range to hire Scotchmo, the hobo.
You won't be sorry. Give me a gun and I'll kill whoever you want.
Thanks very much, Scotchmo. I love the enthusiasm. Okay, now at this point, I would recommend looting around Rail Nomads all you can. For example, there's loot down here. There's a turtle here on his back. If you help him with Animal Whisperer or with Brute Force, I don't really know how that works. But if you help him with one of those skills, he will take a 20-minute journey, and I shit you not, 20 minutes, I think it's actually 22 minutes. He will go all the way around the map, loop around Rail Camp Nomads, and end up kind of down here where my cursor is, where this the edge of the river is. And he will reveal a hidden stash that can only be revealed if you help him. You don't need to follow him through the entire course of the journey. You can just go down there and find his turtle shell on its own. I don't know, he went and left without it, I'm not sure. But I'm not going to be doing that. I would have if I was actually doing a proper campaign, but I'm not. Over here...
That guy dead. Hey, I think I know that guy.
Is the corpse of another dead ranger. I only picked it up just for the sake of it, because I don't exactly have to go far. On the way back to Ranger HQ, you can give it to Vargas, and he'll give you a decent amount of XP for it. As Scotchmo was saying there, he is also looking for a stash. As I said, I do recommend looting all of Rail Camp Nomads just for the XP and just for the loot. I believe exactly on the other side of this wall, if we can get a bit closer, right here is Scotchmo's stash of booze, as well as a bunch of other random loot and junk piles that you can get. As I said, I would recommend looting as much as you can, not just for the weapons and the ammo, that we will really need the ammo, but also to get as much money as you can in case you find a vendor out in the Wastelands as a random event, which I do recommend you look out for. Just circle Ranger Citadel until it spawns, because typically that vendor will have an M24 sniper rifle, which I don't know why she's got such an incredibly powerful sniper rifle this early on in the game. I think it costs like 200 or 300 scrap, which is pretty expensive, but as I said, you're just free to wander around here and loot. No one's going to stop you, as long as you, I don't know, try to loot the graves, especially the grave of Scotchmo's dead wife. Again, looting graves while a close relation is nearby is not going to go well. He will turn hostile, he'll try to kill you, and you're not going to get him back. If you want to loot the graves, which are just up this hill, you can see them here, I highly recommend dismissing both Ralphie and Scotchmo. They will stay here whenever you dismiss a squad member. They will stay exactly where you left them as long as you don't leave the map. If I were to leave this area, then they will teleport back to Ranger HQ. Although I can't get into Ranger HQ yet, so I suppose they just teleport back to their locations where you found them, I guess. After you've unlocked Ranger HQ, then that's where they go. But now we don't have Scotchmo or Ralphie. We can come here and loot the graves for all kinds of random junk, including a toaster hidden in this grave, I believe. And there it is. Once you've looted all the graves, feel free to get Ralphie and Scotchmo back and lead them there. There won't be a problem. They won't suspect anything about the fact that, you know, all the graves were fine until you turned up. Then you turned up and all the graves have been robbed.
What? Gee, that's great. This place is nice and all.
And now we have them back. So, why I kept that sniper rifle? It is going to Scotchmo. Now guys, this may sound stupid, and it kind of is, to be honest. But Ralphie has a 3% chance to go rogue. Angela has a 5% chance to go rogue, and she's got an assault rifle anyway. Scotchmo has a 15% chance to go rogue, and he has a shotgun. If he goes rogue with his shotgun equipped, he will run out of cover, charge into the enemies, and probably die. So, even if you do want to use his shotgun during his turn, if there are enemies close by, I recommend switching back to his sniper rifle, just in case he goes rogue. Because if he does go rogue and his sniper rifle is equipped, he will take a wildly inaccurate shot instead of running out of cover. As I said, you're free to loot this place, and I recommend you do it as much as you can. But it is completely up to you if you want to kill all of the junkies in Rail Camp Nomads. There are 3 groups. One is here, another one's about here, and the last one's kind of here. Each one is typically protecting a single stash, but I think every single junkie camp, you can just walk around them to loot around them, which kind of defeats the purpose of killing them for the sake of getting to the loot. But usually there's like a loot item, which isn't the case here, but usually there's like a chest right next to where they are, so you have to kill them to get to the chest. Be aware, if you approach them, they'll engage you and try to mug you. If you refuse, they'll attack you and they'll have the upper hand and more likely take moves against you first. Remember, these are much higher level enemies than you're supposed to be facing right now. It's completely up to you whether you want to kill them or not. With this squad, and with a little bit of risk taking, you can kill them, especially if you're not playing in Iron Man mode. It's not a big deal being able to kill them. But we are...
Hey Rangers, I'm really sorry.
Leaving.
But I've got to talk to my friend Jesse over there. Forget
Yeah,
it.
that's the
We'll
thing
find
about
some
having
other place to be
followers
alone.
that aren't your initial squad.
Glad you're okay.
They tend to have their own motivations.
No, wait, Jesse's right. We can't. All right.
Well,
I'm
that's the
ready
end of
to
that.
get out of here.
we've got Ralphie back. We have got a little bit of loot, but not much. Actually, speaking of which, there's loot over here. You need to break down this wall with either the brute force skill or with the grenade to get this stash. And Angela, I believe, is, yeah, way too underleveled to break down that wall. Alright, now, before we head into the Wasteland, although I can do this while we're out in the Wasteland, I am going to level up my skills. So, let's call Vargas.
Copy, Echo 1. Echo, congratulations.
Report in. This will unlock our skills and allow us to level up. The first thing you're going to want to level up is Surgeon. All your primary squad absolutely definitely needs to have Surgeon. So, now my primary soldiers have Surgeon. I probably won't give Scotchmo or Ralphie the Surgeon skill because the last character we're on our way to pick up now will also have the Surgeon skill and will have it a higher rank than these 4 primary soldiers. These 4, I won't increase the Surgeon skill more than 1. They only have the Surgeon skill so they can revive a down soldier and stop them from bleeding out and dying. Whereas Friendly here has the Field Medic, which is used to actually heal a soldier that's already standing. He can't revive anybody that's been critically wounded and is lying on the ground bleeding to death without the Surgeon skill. Remember, you will need trauma kits, of which I have none. That's not really a big deal though, that's fine. Let's head out to the waste and go pick up Rose. Okay, I'm not going to head south. I'm going to head the long way around again. I don't really want to risk taking a bit more damage. And it might also be a good idea, and I completely forgot, to set your movement speed out in the Wasteland to run and not walk. I don't know if it uses up more water. I don't think it does, but it's a hell of a lot quicker. And now we are back at Ranger Citadel. Now, I'm going to leave this part completely up to you. What I did accidentally in my trial run was completely forget about the main objective that I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to head east and head to the radio tower that's nearby, where Ace, the guy that's died, and we're trying to investigate his death, that's where you're supposed to head next. It's a nice, easy area. If you want to, there's only one bit of combat that you have to do, but I do recommend killing everyone that's there. They're all raiders, so it doesn't make any difference. But for the sake of this guide on how to make Supreme Jerk easy mode, I am going to skip that. Because if you go back there with Rose, it means you won't have to go back there again later on. Because right now we don't have any kind of computer hacking skills. So we'd have to go back there with Rose anyway. This, as I said, is completely up to you. If you want your squad to have the extra XP from doing that mission, then by all means do that. It's probably the easier option. If you're not bothered by it, then you can head straight down to the Ag Center where we're going to pick up Rose right now. And then you can go back with Rose there later and have her get extra XP as well. Because remember, she's not in our squad yet, so she's not getting any extra XP that we're getting. Instead, Angela's getting extra XP, which I don't really want her to get. Speaking of which, if she does level up before you manage to get Rose, I recommend leveling up her weaponsmithing. This way, you can always rehire her and have her install weapon mods while Rose is still leveling up her skills, because Rose will be the one who replaces pretty much all of her skills except for Outdoorsman, which Ralphie will be replacing. Okay, guys, this message that you're hearing from the radio, let's stop it. Yeah, I heard it. I heard it. So that's the Ag Center, that's Hypal. This is the point of no return. If you're undecided about going to the radio tower or helping out either the Ag Center or Hypal, well, your decision has now been made. If you faff about for too long and don't go to either the Ag Center or Hypal, they will both be destroyed. And it will kind of change the course of how the game will play out. You'd have to do different objectives to make up for it, and collect items from both locations to repair a radio tower at the Rail Nomads camp. And also, both of the hireable characters that you can get as soldiers will die. Of course, we're going to choose Ag Center. This does mean Hypal will be destroyed. This is an either-or situation. So one of the places is guaranteed to die. Yeah, 75%. I'll take those odds. So here we are at the Ag Center. As with any location, I recommend you loot all the surrounding areas before you head in. I'd like to point out something that I completely forgot. With all the loot you picked up in the Rail Nomads, incredibly important you head back to Ranger Citadel and buy as much ammo from the merchant there as possible for assault rifles and sniper rifles. Because although we currently have 4 assault rifle users and 3 sniper rifle users, of which they should be using sniper rifles, very quickly we're going to have 3 assault rifle users and 4 sniper rifle users. Sniper rifle ammo is incredibly expensive, probably the most expensive ammo in the early game, but it is the weapons we're using. It helps me keep my hired mercenaries away from the front lines in case they go rogue, and not to mention their lack of awareness puts their combat initiative way down. My entire squad's combat initiative is 15, Angela's is a decent 14, but usually it means the enemy will get shots on her before she gets to shoot back. Ralphie's isn't really that bad, it's 11. Scotchmo's is abysmal, it is 8. The enemy will probably get to do 2 actions before he gets to do an action at all, especially if they're the ones to get the first shot off. That's why it is imperative that your mercenary squad, these last 3 soldiers, all have sniper rifles. Obviously not Angela, she's going to go in a second, we're going to go pick up Rose. But Rose, Scotchmo and Ralphie need to have sniper rifles. They're going to be in the back. They're not going to be reliable as soldiers. They're going to be sniper support and primarily used for their skills. In Scotchmo's case, lockpicking and safe cracking. As for what attributes and skills they should get, as well as what perks they should get, I'll get to that when we pick up Rose.
This place is creepy.
Yes, it is. Okay, so let's bring Scotchmo and Ralphie back. Anytime you're engaging enemies that fight melee, you're not going to want to have your soldiers crouch because they're going to charge you and you're going to have to back away and spend action points standing up again after crouching. One thing you will want to do is after you got your squad into position, in fact, Ralphie, can you come forwards because your Animal Whisperer skill might actually come in handy. Once you've got everybody into position and you're ready to fire, select your entire squad. Remember, if you click and move, again, the entire squad will move and get out of position. But if you've got your entire squad selected and you fire, everybody fires. And I can't believe you're not dead. 1 health. How unlikely. Alright then, Annette, if you would please. Thank you. So remember, blue means you can move and take another shooting action, so you can move back and Overwatch. And yes, Overwatch does have a penalty. I don't know what it is though. Friendly, yeah, I think I'm going to move you up a little bit and put you into cover because these flies actually do shoot range. It's just the slugs that are melee, so put you in Overwatch as well. You're out of range. Van Dorn, your sniper rifle is really, really rubbish. That is incredibly low range. I guess you're going to be Overwatching as well. And Zhang, you can just stand by and Overwatch as well. And Angela, yep, pretty much the same. Shots, please! Excellent work. Rookie fire as you would expect. So Ralphie here is in range to use his Animal Whisperer skill. I am not going to risk it just yet. I'm going to hope that I kill these flies without the Animal Whisperer skill. Because remember, you can't choose the order in which your soldiers fire. So Ralphie, you just kind of need to come around here. I don't want to move up and risk this slug over here hitting him or friendly fire from hitting him. Yet remember, there is friendly fire. And any action points you don't use have a chance of rolling over into the next turn. I think it's up to a maximum of 1, 2 or 3 action points can be rolled over to the next turn by a certain chance percentage maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, Scotchmo. How bad are you with the sniper rifle? Terrible. 20%. Go for it. Why not? Just for the hell of it. Okay, so we need to kill these flies quite desperately. Wow. That is such low damage. But you're hitting. You might want to fall back a little bit now. Very nice job, friendly. Excellent work. Okay, Van Dorn, can you finish the job? Perfect. Now, Ralphie will get a turn before the slugs can move, so I am going to put everybody else into Overwatch. And hopefully it won't come back and bite me in the arse. Okay, 95% chance to render this slug useless. I cannot believe that failed. You rolled a 5% chance to fail. Incredible. Luckily, you have enough action points to actually finish the job. Thank you so much. Okay, in the Ag Center, in this early section, I do recommend using Ralphie's Animal Whisperer as much as you can without putting him in danger. As I said, he's probably not going to have a sniper rifle for at least a little while. As I mentioned earlier, I highly recommend you searching out the random encounter where you meet a merchant out in the Wastelands around the Ranger Citadel and picking up the M24 sniper rifle so Van Dorn can have it, so that the crappier sniper rifles can be passed down the line to whoever's worse at using them, simply in case they go rogue. They can fire at a distance instead of charging forwards and dying. So, Ralph, you've done a good job. Fall back. You've saved us ammo. These slugs are actually pretty difficult to kill. Sure, you don't get to loot their corpses, but honestly, I prefer to just use Animal Whisper on them, then use ammo. And well done, Annette. Finish the job. Don't forget, after every encounter, always press R to reload, or press the reload button while you have the entire squad selected with this button, because you don't want to go into combat with your weapons half empty. Kind of self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised how often I do that. So I'm not going to be looting any of this area. I'm going to go pick up Rose. There's some loot in here, but I'm going to be skipping all of that. So, the Ag Center. I'm not going to be going through it, but these things you're going to want to avoid. You need to shoot them with pretty much any weapon. One shot will do. And because sniper rifle and assault rifle ammo is so expensive, I'm going to want Scotchmo with this shotgun to be blowing them up. Remember, when you're going to be shooting these, always have it to an individual soldier selected. If you have the entire squad selected and you shoot, the entire squad will shoot and burn ammo and probably get friendly fire as well. So only Scotchmo, if you would.
What was that? Did you idiots just blow yourselves up right in front of the door? Hello? By the doors, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's Kathy. She's not the friendliest sort.
Hello?
For one of the first objectives in the Ag Center, you're going to want to pick up 10 of these. That's one.
Over here, asshole.
Oh my god, I'm here! F***ing hell!
The damn Rangers. We've been calling for help for hours.
Yeah, we're the Rangers. Do you need help? Let's go through.
Rangers,
Okay,
where
let's
have you
just
been?
skip this dialogue. Okay, well, that's Kathy's dialogue done. And now time for Matt's dialogue. Okay, so Matt here does sell ammo, and possibly better weapons depending on how absolutely awful your weapons are. But we're not going to bother with that.
Thanks for
howdy,
coming
Chief.
by, Rangers.
That's a
Always
nasty
good to
rush
see new
you got
recruits
there.
taking the
Never
first
looked
steps
at.
into the big wide world.
This is Matt's room. I wouldn't bother trying to get in there right now. That lock is pretty difficult to get through. But we are here for Rose. It is incredibly, imperatively important you listen to what she said just there. Don't touch anything. If you touch any item in her office and try to loot anything before talking to her, she will call you arrogant and refuse to join your party. Speaking of which, Angela, you need to go. So I need your... anything you have for me. Yeah, you're not going to give me this, are you? Or that. But you will give me that. And all the ammo. So, Angela, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Sorry, Buzz. Negative. That's staying with me.
So yeah, Angela will stay here until the level loads and you either go to a new area or leave this one and come back, and then she'll head back to the HQ. Rose, hello.
Sorry to be so brusque, children. Everything in this room is an experiment in progress, and not to be
Okay, well,
disturbed.
let's just kind of skim through these.
If I'm
Sure,
going to
why
make
not?
sense. Excellent. Let me just turn this burner off and I'll be all ready. We can stock up from my lab supplies if you'd like.
Okay, now she's offering that you loot her lab. Now, by all means, feel free. Be careful. I think this door has a bomb on it, maybe?
In here.
Or maybe one of these items do? It's always a good idea if you're not certain.
I asked one of our techs to secure some of my valuables. I don't think I have the skill to disable the rather aggressive countermeasures on the safe.
Yeah, so she installed a bomb on that safe, just in case, you know, anybody that she works with needs to get her stuff for her research or whatever. They'll lose a hand or a limb. No big deal. If you're ever uncertain about whether an object has a bomb or is booby-trapped, and you're worried that your perception skill isn't high enough to detect it, even though we've been skipping all of the combat, and pretty much all of the combat and all the quests, Annette's perception skill of 3 is actually pretty high, so I wouldn't imagine we'd miss anything. If you're uncertain about whether an item has got a bomb attached to it, just grab whoever's got the bomb skill, select the bomb skill, and put it over, as you can see, If you put it over an item that has a bomb attached to it, you'll see the chance you have to defuse it, even though you don't know there's a bomb there. It's a really useful skill. Once in a while, there'll be something booby-trapped and you won't know it, even with your perception skill, because it's required that perception skill is higher than it currently is, even though right now it is pretty damn high. Scotch mode, can you unlock that for me?
You go in there. I asked one of our techs to
Yeah, I know, Rose.
secure some of my valuables.
Good job.
I don't think I have the skill to disable the rather aggressive.
So if we leave behind Annette with her perception skill, we'll see that it doesn't mention anything about there being a bomb. If we select Zhang with his demolition skill, you'll see that you have a chance to disable the bomb. Or if you select your entire squad and right click, you'll see a list of possible options, one of them being disable bomb. So that's a couple of ways of seeing whether an item has a bomb attached to it or not, without having the perception skill high enough to detect it. So, ladies and gents, that is pretty much where I'm going to leave it. Now, time to go through the skills and what I recommend people get. Friendly, I'd recommend only increasing his field medic skill to 5 or 6. I know at level 7 he gets a skill where he can regenerate health for every turn he's in combat. It's not really that big a deal. When I was playing in my trial run, I used so few healing items because the way my squad is set up. Usually my squad gets so many shots off early in combat that the front runners all die and the back ones have to move up to shoot, of which usually my squad's in cover. They miss, then I kill them the following turn. It's kind of just how combat goes, really, with my main squad being so heavily combat orientated. So yeah, friendly, I'd only really recommend leveling up his medic skill to, say, 5 or 6. After that, just keep building up his assault rifle skills, and when he's got that maxed out, around 9 or 10, you don't have to max out at 10 to be proficient at it. It doesn't increase your skill by a huge amount, getting it all the way up to 10. Friendly will probably be the first person in the squad to get energy weapons because field medic is good enough at about 5 or 6. Now, unlike Friendly, Annette, Zhang, and Van Dorn, I do recommend leveling up their secondary skill as high as their weapons skill. So every time you level up their weapons skill, then you level up their secondary skill. So assault rifles 4, perception 4. Assault rifles 4, demolitions 4, and so on with Van Dorn as well. Because it is really handy to be able to tell whether something is booby-trapped, because you're not always going to do the little hack cheat to see if something's booby-trapped by selecting it with the demolition skill. Quite often forget, and sometimes the skill isn't good enough to detect it. And not to mention, the higher the perception skill, the more chances you have of finding hidden stashes lying on the ground that you can dig up with the shovel. Demolition skill, why you want it leveled up, is pretty self-explanatory. Unlike failing with other skills, when you critically fail with demolitions, it is far more painful. If you fail lockpicking or safe cracking, you'll break the lock and it will need to be repaired. That's not a big deal. You can come back when your repair skill is high enough and try it again. Whereas if you try to use the demolition skill and Zhang gets knocked out by the explosion, takes away all his health and gets critically wounded, then you've just had to waste a trauma kit trying to revive him. And Van Dorn, of course, you're going to want his leadership skill as high as possible, because maxing it out gives a total of +20 aim to all the soldiers that are around him. Granted, the area around him is quite small. He's only got a charisma skill of 3, and I believe that is 4 tiles in any direction, not including the tile that he's on. If anybody's within that range, then they'll get that bonus. But be aware that a recruit's chance to go rogue has got nothing to do with how close they are to the leader. The leader's leadership skill reducing a recruit's chance to go rogue is irrelevant of how far away they are. The only thing that comes into play if somebody's close enough is the increased aim. So keep that in mind. You don't need to have them close by all the time. Once you have Van Dorn's skill leveled up to, I don't know, 5 or 6, that's probably high enough for Scotchmo, who has the highest chance to go rogue, with Ralphie 3%, Rose 10%, and Scotchmo 15%. Even when you've leveled up leadership to stop Scotchmo, most likely to go rogue, from going rogue, you don't need to bother with him being close by. It's not necessary. So, for the rest of the squad, what are their skills going to be? Rose here, with her incredibly high intelligence, getting 5 skill points every time she levels up. Hence why I was suggesting not going to the radio tower before you get her, because when she levels up, it is so valuable. She can level up so many skills, and as I mentioned, you don't need to get them high to be effective at them. I would recommend getting 1 in sniper rifles pretty early on to make her half decent with them. To get mechanical repair at some point. How early you want to get it is completely down to you, depends on how many locks you break with Scotchmo the Drunk. She'll also want brute force at some point, and weaponsmithing to make up for the fact that we no longer have Angela. And one of the most important skills early on, especially in the Ag Center, I highly recommend you get as one of the first skills that Rose will have when she levels up, is Smartass. Let's not head any further down here because I'll trigger Rachel's event where she turns into a zombie and have to kill her. But Rachel, actually, ironically enough, is the girlfriend or the partner or the love interest of the doctor of the entire facility. And when I mean doctor, I mean a proper doctor. You can come here once you've got him and sorted him out, and he will heal your entire squad for free as often as you like, whenever you like. Firstly, you need to find him. He, I believe, is located in the West Fields, right in the middle of them. He's locked in a cave somewhere. When you find him, I'm not sure if it makes any difference, but when he asked, "Where's Rachel?" I told him the truth. Rachel's dead because she's sure as hell about to be. Then when he comes back here, before you talk to him, it is essential before you talk to him, make sure somebody in your squad, likely Rose, has Smartass skill of 2. Because with it, when he's asked, "What am I supposed to do now?" you can answer with the Smartass skill of level 2, and he'll become a triage doctor for all the injured for this facility, and heal your entire squad up whenever you want to. Even when you're not on this mission, you can just pass by here, go in, heal up, and then leave. It is so useful, and one of the reasons why I rarely used any kind of healing item. Let's see if I can find a save that's nearby when that happened. So as you can see, I saved in random locations when I was doing my trial run at certain events as they happened, just so I'd be aware of how to do them when I was going to do this campaign properly, which isn't really going to happen anymore. But here we are, Ryan number 2, this is where you save him, yeah, that's where you find him. And Ryan 2, Central Complex, he is here. Angela, do you have your Smartass skill? No, you don't. But it does look like I saved up the skill points here just for that occasion. Smartass skill level 2. And then let's talk to Ryan. Okay, so yeah, what's he supposed to do now? With Smartass skill level 2, he won't be distraught. If you don't have Smartass skill level 2 when you talk to him, you will have no choice but to answer one of the other 2 options. I think if you skip the conversation, you screw up, and he is irreversibly broken. He will stay there sobbing and will never talk to you again. Not anything to do with you having done anything wrong, but he's just left distraught and feeling like he can't do anything to help the situation. With the Smartass skill and Smartass response, you will now get this option. If you see my entire squad, they're a little bit injured, not too bad. Can you heal me up for free any time that I choose? Yes, you can. Thank you very much, Ryan. So yeah, it is vitally important that you have Rose. Probably one of the first skills you wanted to have is the Smartass skill level 2. And from the looks of it, I didn't level her up at all the way up to the point where I got Ryan, just in case this happened. Judging by the fact that her skills are identical, except for the fact that I now have the Smartass skill. So it looks like I leveled up and didn't use her skill points until I got to here. So that is Ryan. It's incredibly important that you get a medic here. As you can see, my primary squad, Annette, Zhang, Friendly, and Van Dorn, are all leveling up their primary weapon skills and their secondary skill at the same rate, so 4-4, 5-4, 4-4, and 4-4. Ralph hasn't got very far, he's only got 1 in sniper rifle skill, but he did get the trinket, the Akita figurine. I think I must support that, and that gives him +3 to Animal Whisperer, and in this level where there are so many mutated animals running around, it's actually surprisingly useful, if only for this area. It's a good way of saving ammo. Scotchmo, I still haven't leveled him up to have a sniper rifle yet. I think I put the skill into safe cracking before the sniper rifle. And it looks like he has Shiny Ranger Star Trinket, which gives him +1 in hard arse, which is kind of a random find. And yeah, the only thing that Rose has different is her smart arse skill. So, I haven't talked about this yet, but what perks do I recommend getting for the squad? Now, it's pretty even across the board, except for Zhang. The first perk that I recommend getting, you get a perk point every 4 levels, and you get an attribute point every 10 levels. But the first perk point I recommend Zhang spending, or whoever your Bomberman is the Improvise Explosives. So that whenever you disarm a bomb, whether it's a mine or a booby trap, you have a 15% chance to get a grenade-based item. I think depending on the rank of the bomb. And with improvised explosives, you'll find your inventory quickly filling up with dynamite and grenades, and they're very, very useful because grenades, like XCOM, do the same amount of damage across the board. There's no random element to it like guns do, and it ignores armor every single time. So it's a great way to guarantee an enemy dies, and typically I'll have every single soldier in the squad with at least 1 grenade item because grenades aren't connected to skills. Other than Zhang, the first skill that I recommend everyone getting is Hardened. +1 armor, even if they're not actually wearing any armor items. Why +1 armor instead of +10 defense when in cover is the fact that unlike XCOM, there is not always cover to be had. In XCOM, there is typically cover around, the maps are made to have cover available. In this, it's not always the case. As you saw when I was fighting those mutant insects outside, there was like 2 barrels nearby. So when you're fighting, having +1 armor is always going to be useful. Having +10 defense in cover is not always going to be useful. Hence why I recommend having Hardened first across your entire squad, then Turtle across your entire squad, and then probably Healthy across the entire squad. It doesn't give a huge amount of health, but it adds up throughout the course of the game. And you don't have to worry about getting it early because, as it says, it is retroactive. So getting it at the end of the game, you'll still get all the health that you'd have from leveling up just by getting the perk. But those, I prefer to go with the defensive perks because you can't always guarantee an enemy's going to die. But with the defensive perks, they will quite often save your life. After those 3, you can just go nuts, really, to whatever takes your fancy. Like a good one for all the assault rifles is +1 arm penetration. A good one for Van Dorn's leadership skill is Taunt, which is -3% chance for any enemies to hit within the leadership radius. As I said, the leadership radius isn't that good. It's only about 4 tiles because of charisma. And speaking of charisma, now we've gone over what skills everybody should have and what perks everybody should have, let's talk about what attributes people should put points into. Annette, Zhang, and Friendly should all put points into awareness. I think Annette's got +1 awareness because she has, that goat with her. Awareness increases your combat initiative, and as I've said over and over again, it's your combat initiative that will save your life. It's what makes sure that you always get to act first. You get to fire first, and quite often if the enemy doesn't have good combat initiative to combat it, you might end up having 2 turns before the enemy even has 1. So for Annette, Zhang, and Friendly, level up their awareness, max it out, make sure you can take as many turns as you can before the enemy has a chance to react. Van Dorn, the first point that you should spend for him is Charisma. It will increase the radius of his bonus aim that is given by leadership. It's currently at 4 because of this trinket, which is -1 kiss ass, +1 charisma. As you can see, he's still at a base of 3, but I keep as many of these dog collars around as possible so that in case I need to meet any kind of charisma check, I can put them on everybody and potentially increase the charisma of the entire squad by 7 by each person having a dog collar. Then the attributes of Ralphie and Scotchmo. Even though their awareness is not good, in fact Scotchmo's is abysmal, and it needs any boost it can get, I recommend their first attribute point, both of them, go into intelligence. So they get an intelligence of 4, because as I mentioned in the previous video, 4 is kind of the threshold where you go from having 2 skill points per level, hence the difference between Scotchmo and Ralphie and Van Dorn. who has 4 intelligence and gets 3 skill points per level. After they've got a single extra attribute point intelligence, it has to go on awareness. I can't emphasize this enough. Same goes for Rose. Get her awareness up as high as possible, because when the shit hits the fan, you're going to need to run, and anybody with low awareness is going to get left behind. So let's skip forwards a little bit. Okay, so I've jumped forwards to the save game where I've just finished the Ag Center, so we can see what everybody's skills are like. 5-4, 6-5. Yeah, Zhang tends to level up more often than anybody else because he gets extra experience from disarming explosives. 5-5, and Ralphie's starting to look good in sniper rifle. He's got skill level of 3 now, which means he is at least going to be useful in a fight with a sniper rifle, which is excellent because now we've left the Ag Center. There aren't going to be very many animals for him to use Animal Whisper on in combat. Scotchmo is still lagging behind on 1 sniper rifle skill because he has put a point into lockpicking, because he is going to be focusing on safe cracking and lockpicking. It's kind of unfortunate, I know, but it's far more important that my support troops are good at their skills, not at their weapons. And in case you're wondering, with Van Dorn having a leadership skill of 5, Ralphie and Rose have a chance to go rogue of 0%. Scotchmo, on the other hand, has a chance to go rogue of 5%. So things are starting to look up. And as for Rose, you can see I have started to completely bog her down with skills. This kind of makes her progress slow, but as I said, you only really need to get to about level 5 of each of the skills to become proficient in it. So that's kind of where it's at. As you can see, nobody's got an attribute point yet. So let's skip forwards again. Okay, so here we are at Royal Nomads again. We finally made it back here. We've completed all this area. We have made peace between the 2 tribes, and they're going to get the train running again. I'm not going to go into detail about how that's done. It's kind of convoluted. Suffice to say, all you need to do is talk to the boss of the enemy tribe and tell him that you defused a bomb that was going to kill Jesse, and then he will say how sorry he is, and then he'll ask what you want, at which point you can say you want peace. He says it's not going to happen, but he's willing to try. You can come back here and say that the other guy wants peace, and then when this guy, Kekabar, asks, you're supposed to reply with something like, even the strongest man can't operate a train with 1 arm, because he has 1 arm from the accident, and all of his guards have 1 arm as well. They chopped off their arm in a, I don't know, a statement. I don't know what they're trying to say. But yeah, he has 1 arm, you're supposed to say that, and then he gets the great idea of bringing peace by suggesting that the other guy, the leader of the other tribe, cuts off his arm to show that he's willing to sacrifice something or other. I don't know. But that will then bring about peace, although honestly, peace isn't really required for you to end this area. The other tribe can die, it's not really a big deal. I think just get more experience for doing it this way. But that's not what we're here for. As you can see, we've got 1 attribute point. And for Annette, Zhang, and Friendly, it's gone into awareness. That +1 luck is because they're trinket, rabbit's foot. And for Van Dorn, it's gone into charisma. And now he has +5, including that collar. As for Ralphie and Scotchmo, as you can see, their +1 attribute went into intelligence. And from this point onwards, all bonus attribute points will be going into their awareness. And now, as for skills, we have got 7-7, 8-7, 9-5. As you can see, Friendly's stopped upgrading his field medic skill. Is more than enough at level 5, seeing as we don't ever use it. And Van Dorn at 7-7. This is around the time that I'll probably start giving Friendly the social skills of hard ass and kiss ass because, well, he's got nothing else better to do. The next time he levels up his assault rifle skills, he doesn't really have anything else to upgrade for a little while. He could go into energy weapons, and he probably will. But as I mentioned, energy weapons are more of a kind of late game thing, and we're nowhere near the late game at this point. As you can see, Ralphie has gone into outdoorsman, and is now incredibly good at sniper rifles. In fact, almost as good as Van Dorn at this point. He won't have the combat initiative or the action points of Van Dorn, but still, when it comes to actually hitting shots, he is just as good. Before you ask, I don't know why the brawling skill has +1. That's kind of confusing. Pretty sure Ralphie started with 1 brawling. I don't know why I increased that to 2. If I did, that was an accident. So ignore that. Scotchmo, it looks like I kind of teetered off at getting 4 in both safe cracking and lockpicking, and then started leveling up his sniper rifle skill. He's got level 4 now, so again, he's going to be pretty handy in a fight as well. And Rose is just going completely out of control with her skills with level 5 of computer science. Surgeon, of which I did level up 1 because there are certain objectives, bonus or otherwise, that do require the surgeon skill. For example, the guy that was injured in Rail Nomads at the beginning of the episode when I mentioned I'm not going to talk to him because he's injured and I have no chance of healing him. With level 5, you've got a decent chance of healing. You can still fail, and I do believe if you fail, not critically fail, it does cut off that bonus objective. I think if you critically fail, he dies. If you fail, he's like, what the hell are you doing? Can you just go find me a real doctor? Weaponsmithing's level 5. That's pretty much good enough there. Sniper rifle's level 5. She's actually better than Scotchmo at this point, even though she has so many other skills sucking up her skill points. Mechanical repair level 4. Brute force level 3. Smart arts level 2. That hasn't increased at all and probably won't until I know the next checkpoint where I need a smart arts skill increase. Alarm disabling, just in case, level 2. And that's probably where her skills are going to be. I wouldn't imagine I'd add more skills to her repertoire. It's kind of bogging her down as it is. The only new skills I need to get is Van Dorn, at some point around the level 8 or 9 of sniper rifles and leadership, needs to get heavy weapons. Friendly will probably get social skills, as well as energy weapons. And Annette and Zhang will probably get something along those lines as well, either heavy weapons or energy weapons. And as you can see, my squad is continuing on its path of perks, Hardened, Healthy and Turtle. Except for Zhang, who's lagging behind a little bit because he got improvised explosives. And Friendly as well, who it looks like I gave 1 perk point to on the mend, just to get extra effectiveness from healing items, because he's always going to be the person that's using the healing items. And as for everybody else, they had their own perks to begin with, but they are also going down the path of Hardened and Turtle. And guys, that pretty much covers it. This is the robot that I found and hacked. His name is Vex. He can be found at the abandoned railway there. One thing I do recommend if you are going to take him, I would not play in a self-imposed Iron Man mode if you're going to have Vex. Just so you're aware, I had 4 cows, I think, rolling with the entire squad. Just so they give that +1 coordination. Vex killed the other 3. He's the only survivor. In fact, probably the most damage that I've taken in my squad is because of Vex. You don't have control over him. He is essentially a follower like the cow, except he goes hostile towards enemies in combat and you can't control him. When his turn comes up, he will just charge forwards regardless of who's in front of him and do a double burst fire depending on the number of action points he has available. But he will not care less about who is in front of him, and he does huge amounts of damage. I think Zhang I need to use a trauma kit on. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend getting Vex if you're going to be going in Iron Man mode. This was kind of my trial run. In the proper campaign, I would not have taken him. But yeah, you can find him in the abandoned railway. When you load in, you follow the railway line all the way until it curves 90-degree right, where you find, I think, 3 slicer dicer bots, which for the love of God don't go anywhere near them until you've leveled up much more. I've said the game is incredibly easy. Those would still kill me. Well, actually, come to think of it, I probably would be able to kill them, but not without a huge risk, especially if I was going to be doing an Iron Man mode. But yeah, near that area, you'll find a cargo container. If you move the camera angle around a little bit and look inside the cargo container, you'll find Vex. With a high enough computer skill, namely from Rose, you can hack him and he'll become a permanent follower to whoever hacked him. And as far as I'm aware, I'm not entirely sure how to make him stop following. I do know if you use the mechanical repair skill on him, it will heal him for 2 or 3 points of health each time. He doesn't have a lot of health, it's only 50. And if you use the computer sight skill on him, it overclocks him, in a manner of speaking. I'm not entirely sure what it means. I don't know if he gets extra action points or his attacks do increase damage, but it does buff him for a limited amount of time, if you choose to take him. But as I said, he's only got 50 health, so as the game progresses, it'll be more and more likely that he will die, especially in a large battle where he starts charging further and further ahead away from your squad, he will probably die. So guys, that is the end of the episode. That is in fact the end of the series. I'm sorry this series won't be continuing. I was really looking forward to it, but as I said, in the 20 hours that I played, it was just far too easy to be fun. And although not all my videos have to be about hardcore gameplay, a good example is Soma, a playthrough doesn't have to be hardcore to be enjoyable to watch, but this kind of game I feel that it does, and I'm not a good enough commentator to have 20 hours in easy battles essentially every single time. Not to mention, you're probably looking at about 25 episodes before the game gets more difficult. Assuming it does, considering my primary squad, the starting 4, is so combat heavy. Because as you can see, my assault rifles at this point get burst fire. And that does a huge amount of damage. Even on this difficulty, they probably will one-shot somebody at relatively close range. So guys, thank you very much for watching. If you are looking for a Impossible Iron Man run of this series, I know Mal is going to be doing a Supreme Jerk Iron Man run of this exact game. Over on his channel, there will be a link in the description below. I'll be checking it out. I'd love to see how things go for him. I believe this is the 3rd or 4th playthrough he's done of the game. The only one, though, that he's done in Director's Cut, so there'll be a lot of new things for him to play around with. But guys, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye! Don't miss this, Guts, okay? Your life literally depends on it.
Oh, let it rain.
Please do. Where are you aiming? Where? What? Why? That's not 3 tile scatter. Well, crap. That's not good. Well, that means I can't move anywhere because of this Overwatch. Yeah, the Thin Man can't really go anywhere to suppress the outsider that's going to flank us. But maybe he doesn't need to? Okay, so we are back again. Hey, Apollo, if you have a problem with me bringing guns, just let me know. Well, alright then.
Okay,